Ladies and gentlemen, CNBC, Senate votes to repeal Biden's student loan forgiveness plan. NBC News, Senate votes to overturn Biden's student loan relief program. It's all over the news. 52 minutes ago, resolution to stop. Senate passes a resolution to stop Biden's student loan forgiveness. Well, they say, it's just going to be vetoed by the president. But the Supreme Court still has to rule on this, and Supreme Court will rule against Biden's student loan forgiveness plan, legal experts predict. This is a CNBC article. In June to this month, the Supreme Court has to rule on student loan forgiveness and other topics related to universities. Okay? They made a ruling allowing it to go through the other month, but the challenge in the appeals court is still it's still happening. So there's still a challenge to it, and the Supreme Court has to eventually address that challenge. Here's why this is a racket, an absolute racket, ladies and gentlemen. And I was on the left most of my whole life up until about 5-6 years ago. Okay? It is a racket. It is a ploy. It is a stunt by Democrats led by Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren and AOC and others. You're going to pay for it anyway. Number one, through inflation and higher taxes. Nothing is just given. Who doesn't want their loans paid for? Who doesn't want that? It took me 1,000,000 years to pay for my student loans. It took me until my mid-30s. Yeah, mid to late 30s to pay all my student loans. Okay, who doesn't want all of that taken care of? Of course you'd want that taken care of. It's $400 billion, though. It doesn't address inflation. It adds to inflation. This is the way Democrats work. They shut down economic activity, push to shut down economic activity in blue states. Democratic governors lead the way. Experts, bureaucrats say if you don't shut down economic activity in Trump's last year in office, you should never have been born. That was a choice. Didn't have to do that. It was a fabricated, coerced consensus that demanded this very bizarre and insidious groupthink. And so they shut down economic activity. 22 plus million people were unemployed after we had record low poverty with Trump. Somebody tell AOC and Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren we had record low poverty with Trump in 2019, the beginning of his last year in office. Record highs in household median income. Record low in unemployment and 2% inflation with Trump. Then the largest blue states led the way, tanked their economies, a choice, caused 22 million people to go to Costco and supermarkets for toilet paper runs. Now there's bank runs. Then they pumped $10 trillion into the economy, and the stupidest rebuttal from people who know nothing about economics is the wonderful, morally superior, highly educated liberal Democrats who say, they bailed out Wall Street. Why don't they bail out Main Street? And it's like they gave money to financial. The fiscal and monetary stimulus, okay, was meant to keep lending going and borrowing going and the economy somewhat functioning. Because at that point, you created an economic depression. You created the foundation of an economic depression. So if you didn't engage in monetary stimulus, there would be nobody buying houses, nobody doing anything that year. Already we had an economy that eventually led to record highs in inflation. But you had to, what Democrats did, they said, we're so good and virtuous. We're going to give stimulus checks and eviction moratorium, man. you stopped people from working. You didn't have to do that. Other countries, there's certain countries that didn't. The countries that did face economic turmoil. Then you pumped money into the economy. Then you said, Democrats and Biden's administration said, well, inflation is temporary. Then they raised interest rates through the roof. Because of that, they now have bank runs. They're completely, not only ignorant, they're like the greatest buffoons when it comes to the economy. That's why it was a moral imperative to have voted for Trump. Now you have food inflation, rent, and energy costs through the roof. But you pumped 200 million barrels of strategic petroleum reserves into the economy, which temporarily halted oil prices, reduced oil prices in this country. Okay. And that's Biden's administration, along with, oh my God, the planet. The planet's going to end soon. So why did you pump 200 million barrels of strategic petroleum reserves? Oh, because you lied about the Green New Deal. You won't even vote for it. You're not going to pack the courts. These are all the lies they tell impressionable progressive voters, Democrats. It's a big racket. They're not going to pack the courts. They're not going to implement a Green New Deal. They won't even vote for it in the Senate. They're not going to abolish the filibuster. What else are they not going to do? Oh, they're not going to defund police. They're now funding police because crime is through the roof in Democratic-run cities. So there goes defund the police. Another completely counterproductive policy of Democrats. And yes, it was a policy. Anyway, hit subscribe to this channel right now. The issue with the student loan forgiveness, and I used to be the biggest Bernie Sanders booster on the internet, according to the Huffington Post. And I was the unofficial scribe of Sanders' most hardcore voters, according to the Washington Post. You could see those links and those articles and the articles I wrote on hagoodman.com and The Hill, the Huffington Post, along the Jerusalem Post, the Federalist, and other publications. My Patreon link is below. The Super Thanks is below. It is a gigantic racket. You're not helping inflation. You're hurting inflation by adding more to the debt and to the deficit. The whole point of raising interest rates, making it difficult to pay for your credit card bills and mortgages and buying a house and all that and buying a car, the whole point of raising interest rates is to lower inflation. But you raise the interest rates because you pumped so much money into the economy. So now they want to pump more money because the lenders are still going to get paid one way or another. And they're going to get paid through eventually higher taxes or higher inflation. And you're going to, the same people who are rejoicing for student loan, these are crumbs. What Democrats do is they literally cause the economic turmoil. In one case, in one example, one primary case study is shutting down economic activity when they didn't have to. Just because experts and bureaucrats told you to do so doesn't mean that it's the right thing to do. Here's a news flash. I know it's going to come as some kind of complete shock to the wonderful, morally superior, highly educated liberal Democrats among us. Just because an expert tells you something doesn't mean they're right. That's another public relations monstrosity, sad, pathetic stunt. Oh, the experts say. And you get these articles written like, I'm a podiatrist. This is what, podiatrist, it's fine. You could listen to, but I'm this expert. Here's 5 things that is like, oh, okay, fine, I guess. But what about, is there any disagreement? How can you have, that's might not be the best example, but you have this coerced consensus among experts. But if you silence dissent, then what happens? It's not a consensus now, is it? Anyway, getting back to, I've never heard this, I've never seen this emphasis on the word expert before. Okay, Sam Bankman-Fried and Bernie Madoff were experts on finance, believe it or not. Hit subscribe to this channel. It's a racket. ain't going to work. It's not going to help anybody get a job or pay for rent or food or energy that's through the roof. Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe right now.